Hi guys, welcome back to another. Hang on a minute. Something not quite right here. Beep. Much better. Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video, focusing still on portraits, we're going to talk about why it's important to keep it simple on set, simple in terms of how you shoot things, how you light things, but more for the benefit of the client or subject that you have in front of the lens. So let's get into it. Okay, so thinking about this not with our photographer brains of kit, more lights and fill lights, main lights, a hard light, a specular light, I'll add another one, add a fourth one. I think it's beneficial to keep things much more simple on set, in particular, not only when you're starting out for yourself as well, but more so for the subject on set or the client on set. Now, yes, I get that if the subject is a professional working model, they're a professional actor, sports personality, musician, they're probably somewhat used to the process and somewhat used to larger sets, larger production value, images, video, or what have you. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it can be somewhat overwhelming walking into a ton of lights surrounding you with grip equipment and flags and bounce cards and boxes of light being put around you. So I think we need to be mindful of the effect that all of that can have on someone, most definitely if they're not used to the whole process or not used to being in front of a lens and a camera. And we need to be empathetic towards that, we need to be mindful of that, and work with them to draw them out of their shell if they do go a little bit withdrawn within that set. Now, there are some jobs that you'll get a client brief that's come from an agency or a management agency, and they will dictate the look and style, and that will therefore inform and dictate how you approach the job and how you light it. That being said, at the end of the day, you've still got a human on set, you've got human beings that are working on the team around you when there's not a pandemic on. So we need to be mindful of the effect of all of this on people around, and are we approaching something too complexly and overlighting something and making it more difficult and slowing the process down? Are we causing someone to walk into a set and be a little bit unsure and maybe overwhelmed, psychologically? Maybe it's, this is a new experience, I'm not so sure about all of this. What's all this stuff? Why have you got all this? Do I not look good? Do we need all this to make me look good? What's wrong with me? You've got to be mindful of how that has an effect on someone. So keeping it simple can pay dividends to that. Like I say, you're going to get some jobs, you're going to have to scale it up, you're going to have to break out 6, 7 lights. The most I've used on a portrait is 7, and that's really going some, to be honest with you. Most times it's used, the most lights are used on product photography. Go figure, the smallest items, more lights are used. Who'd have thought it, but there we go. So be mindful of the effects on someone. If you understand that this is the first time that they're coming onto a set, or maybe one of the first times, sit down, have a chat with them. Tell them about how the process is going to go. This is what I need to do to get this look for you. Don't worry about all this equipment. This is what this is doing, this is what this is doing. It just informs them of what you're doing and why and the process. Along with some positive affirmations. I mean, you don't necessarily overtly pump them up or kiss ass, basically, but you build them up, you bring them out of the shell. Positive affirmations. Anything that happens on a set is on you as the photographer and nobody else on the set or on the team. It's down to you on the day. So take that on the chin, just roll with it. I just need to make this quick change here, make no big deal out of it and carry on. If someone really shuts down when they walk into a set, or you place them onto a very complex, maybe a small boxes of light around them, it's probably going to be worth, if you can do client brief dictating, etc., breaking away from that, starting with something a bit more simple if you can do. Now, you can't do that in the commercial world all the time because there's time frames, studio hire costs, production costs, staffing costs, so people aren't going to wait for you to warm them up all the time necessarily. But if you can for general portraiture, certainly for Joe Blogs or public, I think it can go a long way for spending 15 minutes at the beginning. It may extend your session, but just starting with something simple, get them used to the process, get to know them, talk to them. Remember, we're looking to draw the real them out of them within the portrait, so they're not pushing out that, fake's a bit of a harsh word, but pushing out that guarded persona that we all tend to do these days, and certainly what's shown online. So keeping it simple will help you do that. So yep, I've lit complex text before with portraits, but I'm very mindful that it can have a bit of a knock-on effect on people. It can be distracting. On the flip side of this, you can get some people that end up very, 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 maybe too interested in what's going on the set, because maybe they've got a bit of a creative interest themselves in videography and photography or what have you. And don't get me wrong, I can talk about this stuff for hours, but when you're on set with a client watching and you're trying to get a job done, or you're on set just trying to get a job through the studio to move on to the next one, and it's not just to rush it, next, throw them out next, but at the end of the day, you've got to make a portrait, you've got to get the pictures done. Going down that rabbit hole of a load of technical stuff and getting into that conversation with them, yes, it opens up conversation, you're getting to know them, but it steers it to a very, very one-way street. And then you start going into the technical and talking that. And before you know it, you sat down talking for 20 minutes about photography. And no pictures have been taken. Go figure. Not that I've ever done that before. Right, so keep it simple on set. Be mindful of the effect of what you've got on set may have on someone. Some of these big rigs, modified stands with boom arms and whatnot, they can be intimidating to people who don't know what they are, why they're in place. Is that going to fall on me? What's that for? If you're photographing someone who's younger, say children, or maybe even small animals, if you're into that kind of work, a lot of this stuff can possibly overwhelm them or maybe spook them. So be mindful of that. So we've got to consider the effect of what we're doing and what we've built on set on the person psychologically, just so that's not a barrier or a negative, if you will, that happens and makes them kind of withdraw and go a bit quiet. Because remember, we want to draw them out of their shell, so to speak, and get something real from them in the portrait. So if you've got any thoughts or comments on this, let me know in the comments below. Totally open to discussion on this. Have you built a big elaborate set and thought this lighting's going to look cool, it's going to be amazing, and you've got all these lights and firing on someone, and yeah, it looks impressive in a behind the scenes video, but because the person's so overwhelmed and they're unsure, and you've just got deer in headlights or rabbit in the headlights, whatever, and there's nothing happening there. Whereas if you'd scaled it back to something really simple, single umbrella, single softbox, bounce card, open the setup a little bit, have a bit more conversation, give them a little bit more breathing room, things may have gone better. Another thing as well, actually, to consider from a technical standpoint is your lens choice. Yes, it has an effect on perspective. It can have an effect on how a subject is rendered in the final image, most certainly. But if you're going wide or wider than a traditional portrait lens, 85mm, whatever, and you're up close on top of them, they've got this whole thing going on around them that they're worried about. Do I look well enough? Am I doing the right thing? Why have I got to have such a big light source? Is it because, am I ugly? What am I doing? Did I do that right? What am I doing? What am I doing? Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. They've got all this going on in their head, and there's you with this lens and camera right here, up close and personal. So maybe back off a little bit, change your focal length if you're used to shooting wider at 50mm. Sometimes I like the character of that, but it can be a bit overbearing if we're really close to someone. Not to mention at the moment, you can't really get that close to people anyhow. So consider how you're going to approach shooting it as well. Yes, there's things that we would like to do as photographers, technically, how we like to light it, how we like to shoot it, but we need to be mindful of what the person's thinking and feeling while they're on set. Anyway, Man, I went off on not so much a tangent, but I went off again on that. So let me know if you've got any thoughts in the comments below. More content like this is on the way. I'm about to set up for a client job over the next couple of days, so I won't be doing any videos whilst I'm shooting that. But anything that you would like to see, drop a comment and let me know, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Oh, guess how many times it took me to do that intro entrance sequence? About 5, because I tripped over a cable, the bag got caught on the cable. Nightmare. How these vloggers do it, where they leave a camera and do walk-bys, and I don't know. Anyway, I'll never be a vlogger, never be Casey Neistat. Right, next.